Alright, so let's start this video off by saying I think I've diagnosed the problem of the popping noise coming from the driver's side rear of this 2016 or 2014, I think it's 2016 Nissan Rogue. Oh my gosh, it's been a while. I'm gonna inspect the brakes and everything. It still got some meat on them. I'm not having popping noise coming from the right. My issue is coming from the left side. So the things that I've done on this car was to replace the rotors, replace the calipers. When I decided to change the brakes on the old calipers that actually ended up seizing, those brakes, how do you say, the changing of the brakes led to the popping noise, and I did have a popping noise before that. So, you know, after reading review after review and listening to a lot of different, not talks, but reading a lot of different people come up with different scenarios, I came to the conclusion that even Nissan hasn't figured out what the issue is for this car. Now, I'm going to go through several things today to see if I can come up with a solution to solve this problem. And I'll tell you, spoiler alert, if you don't want to watch the entire video, I think that it is the caliper pins that are the problem with the brakes not making complete contact with the rotors when braking. Because this issue for me happens very early on when driving the car. I will come like 40 miles an hour or so. I'll come to like a stop sign or something, and I'll hit the brakes, and I'll get an immediate pop, almost like the brakes didn't engage all the way on the left side, and then it breaks, and I won't have the problem again for several minutes. And it's not a problem that happens every time that I go out. It is non-reoccurring, but it's enough of a nuisance that you know that the problem is there, because it's going to happen when you drive, when you go over curves or whatever you're doing in your sport utility vehicle. You'll get this popping noise, and it's like, for me, it happened after changing the brakes. So I'm going to try to solve this with another video today, or at least get closer to the truth. What is the actual problem of this car's braking situation? Or popping noise coming from the rear. It's not coming from the front. I know enough about cars now to know that my issue is not making noise in the rear, but is a front problem, like I've seen on the internet. Like, I don't know how they're making that jump between having a popping noise coming from the rear and it being a suspension component issue in the front. It just makes no sense. Zero sense. So I'm back on the rear, and knowing that when I changed the caliper pins and I cleaned them and re-greased them, the popping noise went away. So that's another thing I want to say if you don't want to watch the whole video. I cleaned my caliper pins, and these are brand new calipers, by the way. I cleaned my caliper pins, and the popping noise stopped. I didn't have any issues with the popping noise for several days. It came back. The idea now is that I'm going to replace the caliper pins. I'm going to swap them. I'm going to swap the caliper pins from the right to the left, because they're literally the same. And I'm going to see if the popping noise shows up on the right side of the car, and not the left. If that is true, then one can reasonably discern from that the caliper pins are bad, and you replace the caliper pins. If the popping noise is still located on the left, that doesn't mean that the caliper pins aren't the answer. It means that I might need to replace those, but look at some other issue that might be forming up here. So let's hop to work. Stay focused. Don't know if you can see any of this at all, and I should be trying to make sure you can see it, but I actually really want to solve this problem because it is very, very annoying. And a lot of you that are watching this probably know how annoying this is because it's happening to your car. Okay? But try this simple test and we'll see. If mine works, you know, great. So I've greased these before and the noise went away. So I'm kind of leaning towards this being the issue. But we will see. And these boots look swelled, so need to see about that. Okay, let's go to the other side. All right, so first and foremost, make sure your parking brake isn't on. That'd be a problem for you. All right, so let's come over here. Pop that up. Them focused hands, you know. Don't need a breaker bar. Got these hands. Your experience may vary. All right, so this one is that one at the top, this one at the bottom, the rubber boot at the bottom. Alright, so this needs to be swapped, the rubber boot at the top on this side. So on this side, rubber boot goes at the top, clean one goes at the bottom, and on this side, clean one goes at the top, rubber boot goes to the bottom. Let me go grab some silicone grease. All right, so I'm gonna clean them. I'm gonna clean them a little bit and put some actual silicone grease on them instead of the spray. All right, so this boot looks less swelled than the other one. I just want to point that out. If you can see that, this one looks a lot less swelled than the other. So what we're gonna do, gonna put some grease on this bad boy. And I'm just gonna stick it back in here. Sure it's up. Just like so. Where you going? Get back here. Tighten it up. Before you get it too tight, put the other one in. Make sure your boot's all the way down. Like so. Already cleaned that. Just gonna throw some grease on it. Just like so. All right. Look how much play that is in there. See that? Okay. That will work itself out. Gotta go grab the tool. All right, let's tighten this down. Doesn't have to be too tight. Okay, that's good for that one. Let's go to the other side. We're at the other side, so we know that the clean one goes to the top and the boot one goes to the bottom. And look, see how this looks? It's all the way up here. This boot the caliper pins might be the issue. Literally might be the issue. It's so subtle that you think that it might not be it, but it could be. It could be. And Nissan to date, from what I've read, has not figured this problem out. So kudos to us for accepting the challenge to figure out what the problem is. Right. A little bit on here. Alright. Strange how this one barely even budges. Interesting. This one barely budges. Gotta get that truck fixed, my goodness. Got the worst exhaust ever. I'll make sure this goes back in. It's popping into place. It's not popped. All right, we'll get the tires back on, take it out for a test drive. Stay focused. I'm gonna need some new ones. All right, so we're in the Rogue and I'm already messing up. In the Rogue, about to fire up the car, and we're gonna take it out for a drive here to see if that, I'm turning the volume here, to see if, so here's the thing, let me recap for everyone. Okay, so the idea is the caliper pins on the new, remember these are new calipers, the caliper pins on the new calipers are somehow bad on the driver's side. So the idea I have, after in the last video featuring the Rogue, I cleaned the caliper pins, greased them with liquid silicone, and the noise went away after I did that. I didn't have the popping noise for several days. Okay. Now, after witnessing that, and instead of going ahead and buying new ones, I'm going to swap the passenger side with the driver's side because the passenger side doesn't pop. Now, with that said, if the passenger side does pop after I've made this switch, I can 100% say that my caliper pins are bad. That's for certain. If they don't pop, but I don't have any popping over here, I honestly can still say that my caliper pins are bad because it kind of helps that. Now, if it still pops over here after changing the caliper pins, that means there's something else going on, and I'll have to turn my attention back towards the caliper. If you saw in a couple of clips ago, I was moving the caliper in and out, but I wasn't able to do that on the passenger side. So that makes me believe that maybe I have something going on with my caliper that I need to look at, and maybe it's not the caliper pins or it's the whole thing, which would suck because I had to get a brand new caliper to fix that. Maybe the caliper is actually getting stuck even though it's brand new. It does happen. So let's go ahead and throw our seatbelt on so we don't get a ticket. And I'm out here burning up. I'm already sweating in the car. Could roll down the window, turn on the AC, but it's Texas. Why would we do that? Fresh air. So all right, let me get started and I'll cut you back on. Stay focused. All right, so I'm cutting y'all on here. It's weird driving this car, even though I drive manual all the time. And I'm listening for the sound of popping. Remember, it only happens to me when I'm on stop signs. So I'm braking, no popping. No popping at all. Okay, so let's go down some streets here. Hit the brakes a little bit. That was my chair. No popping. You interested yet? Because if you have this problem, it would have already happened. You would already had some kind of popping going on. Put our signal on. Let's get up a little bit of speed here. Maybe it's due to like the high temperature on the caliper or on the rotor. Maybe it's due to that. I'm gonna hit a pop. I'm hitting the brakes. No popping. Zero popping happening right now. Very, very, very intriguing. Very intriguing. Hit the brakes, nothing. I don't know why he's hitting his brakes for, but hitting the brakes again, nothing. Nothing at all. All right, I'm gonna head back. I'll see you back at the house. Stay focused. All right, so we're back at the house, and I can tell you, honestly tell you, on the way back, no popping. Smooth as ever. Very enjoyable drive for the Rogue. No popping whatsoever. So what does that tell us in this test? One, it tells us that our caliper pin, I can't say that it's bad. Maybe the rubber boot needs to be changed out, but I greased that rubber boot, on the right side and not on the left. So maybe there's something going on with the caliper pins, and maybe changing the caliper pins did the trick. Now, this problem did come back post the last video I did for the Rogue. I cleaned the caliper pins, put the liquid silicone in there, and it popped after a week, I believe. Here I use the actual silicone grease, the solidified version of the silicone grease. And for now, I have no popping. Like when I drove this car this morning without doing any of these fixes, I had that notorious popping noise that you get when you hit the brakes, and only when you hit the brakes. So I am almost 100% sure that this is the problem for those that change their brakes, and after changing your brakes, you notice that you're having this popping noise. Now, some of you have some different issues that are, quote unquote, no pun intended, popping up that need to be addressed. That may be suspension in the rear. We need to diagnose that stuff further. However, for this particular issue with the Rogue after changing brakes, it seems that even though that I changed the calipers out and the rotors, that you would think that would solve the issue, it looks like the caliper pins were at fault for the brakes popping or not engaging completely on the rotor. So hopefully this helps you. If you have any problems, you can reach me on Instagram at focus_hands on Instagram, and then maybe we can kind of walk through this and see if we can kind of brainstorm to fix your problem. Everyone else, go ahead and hit me with that like button, hit that subscribe if you haven't. This has been an ongoing issue for a lot of folks, so hopefully this puts you on the right path to figuring out how to get that annoying popping noise out from your focused hands out from your Rogue. Anyway, with that said, focused hands signing off. Peace.